Beautiful. All right, we're going. We'll give this a minute to warm up. Alrighty, back on the clock. I picked a load up at 6 this morning, and they're gone. I always get this one that gets in and out. Here's a couple of bodies. I got none. Something a little bit. Oh, yeah, 22. Oh, I got one. Slow start. Well, I picked up a little load this morning at the crack of 6. It took me exactly 2 hours to deliver it over here by Indy to the east. Dropped it at 8. And then I did a quick stop at Wally World, bought a little bit of stuff. Went back up to I-70, hung out for a little while. And then I got a call for this load. And I went south of Indy, and now I am en route to Wisconsin up by Milwaukee, carrying Harley Davidson stuff. I don't know what it is, little parts in a box. And they're gone. And I'll start over again. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Really? Really? Dick. Wow. That was magical. That was a display of driving skill. Good God almighty. All right, so this morning I had a 6 o'clock pickup. Got there 5:45, got the crew outside smoking and joking, got loaded immediately. They gave me 3 hours to deliver over by Indy. Got there in 2, dropped my load, then I drove north, took a break for about an hour. They're gone. That's 3 false starts. All right, I got one person. I've had 3 false starts. Let me see 2. Then I'll start for the 4th time. We are en route, by the way, from Indy going towards Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The little box of, hey, you're back. How you doing? Okay, you're somebody that hangs out, so I can talk to you now. Yeah, I did a pickup this morning. It was at 6 o'clock. I got there at 5:45, which seems to be a real early time to go to work around here. And I was out loitering around by their smoke break area, and everybody came out, and I grabbed them. Ha-ha, got you early. And I got my load. It was just one pallet. I went over here by Indy and dropped it. I got there by 8. got paid $200 to go 96 miles, so not a bad deal. Drove north a little bit, got back to I-70, and there's a pilot flying J up there, and I went and hung out for a couple hours, got a nap in. And then they called me, and I just picked up a load south of Indy going up to Milwaukee. There's a little tiny box of Harley Davidson parts. I think they're badges. The box weighs like 10 pounds. It's real light. I think they're little logos or something. But there was a Chinese fire drill of problems trying to get this load picked up because it's one of those, well, who are you? Why are you here? Do you have a point of contact? I got to get on the phone and wait around and hold to get a hold of the person, and then they got to talk. And well, who'd you talk to? What's your point of contact? Well, it took an hour and 20 minutes to get this box, which is half the size of a suitcase. So that's just a frustrating way to start to run here. But I'm going, and the addresses for Harley Davidson in Milwaukee are something like W as in West, W 148 North 9003, and then a street name. And I'm going to have to figure out how to navigate that because the GPS does not speak that language. Not even a little. So I'm going to fight that one. The topic today is the jukebox. And from what my page is telling me, a vast majority of the people on this channel are my age. I'm 57 or older, so it makes it real easy to talk about stuff like this. They should give you a confirmation code or something. They give me what's called a pro number, and it's something that our system uses. But every single person we bump into, their coding system is totally different. Their letter number systems are all different. They all kind of do their own thing. There's no standardization in this. And their BOL number is a barcode, which doesn't translate into my language. So I got to make something up. It's just the way they do it. Like I said, every company's got their own tracking system. Hold on a second here. Being that most people on here are my age or older, it makes it easier to talk about things that I remember. And the jukebox, and I kind of did a little research on it. And juke means a rowdy group or go figure, I agree. A rowdy group or a rowdy dance. That's how they figured that out. But the concept of a jukebox, which is basically something that plays recorded music without a band being present, has been around since the 1890s. But the classic jukeboxes of American, Americana, I guess you want to call it, were from the 1940s to the 1960s when they kind of started to fade out a little bit. The classic Happy Days jukebox, remember that one? Where the Fonz would walk in and hit it because that was the 50s. And there was a handful of companies that made them. One of them was Wurlitzer, I'm familiar with, and another was called Rockola. Remember those? The old Rockola machines? And also in the 50s, they made those little tiny ones. They would put them in cafes, and it would be at the table right next to you. You could push the buttons to play right there. And that's actually, with motorcycles, the rocket bikes. In Britain, that's where the word cafe racer came from, because there was a route, like you'd be at a cafe, and you'd start a song, and you get on your motorcycle, and you race around the town and come back, or some route, and have to get back while the song was still playing. That's where the phrase cafe racer came from. I remember that from years ago. But the jukeboxes hit their popularity, their highest popularity in the 1950s. And I did not realize this, but nowadays they watch which music is most popular, what's the top 40. There's a few places here that still have which boxes. There's newer versions that we're on. Yeah, we'll get to that for a second. Get to that main issue. Though they kept, I didn't know this, but when people were playing jukeboxes, they kept record of what you were listening to. I did not know that. And that's how they kept track of what was the more popular songs, which is a constantly changing thing. And for some reason in 1960, the whole jukebox idea kind of went downhill, and they stopped recording that because the popularity faded kind of quick at pre-recorded music. And I remember as a kid in the 1970s, I had those ugly ones that were the 1970s versions. But I do remember seeing the ones with the record players and looking down at it and seeing the records in them. But moving into the 1980s, the companies went from the records to compact discs. So it was just a giant CD changer, built in. And today, the jukeboxes, which are incredibly ugly and they're trying to kind of make them look like old school, but they're really putting a minimal effort. The ones today they're just satellite radio. So you got this giant box that's nothing more than a satellite radio receiver, which is you know, kind of lost the whole lure. The only place I've seen them recently is, to be honest with you, Waffle House. And nobody touches them because anybody can now get on their phone and pull up any song they want anytime they want. So it's kind of a bygone thing. There are purists that like the 50s era machines, the old style with the records, little 45 records in them. The machines today are very valuable. There is one company out there actually making 45 records still for that purpose. Way too many lights and LED. Yeah. Remember the beach 8-track? Yeah, 8-tracks and cassettes. But I mean, as far as the jukeboxes go, they went from the records to the CDs and then straight to wireless, radio. Just kind of a waste of time. And so to see them out and about now, people just kind of ignore. What's the point anymore? Well, that brings me to the gist of this little stream here. My mother dated a guy in the early 60s in college, and later in life they bumped into each other and actually got married in 2009. And the guy is my stepdad. His name is Dave, Super Dave. And Super Dave lived in the Carolinas until he retired, and then they packed up and moved to Texas and lived fairly close to me. But he had a farm, and as they were packing up, out in his barn, he had an old jukebox covered in tarp. And he said that it's been out there for a while. They took the records out because you don't want to leave the records sitting out in the weather. But the jukebox was in the barn with a tarp over it, and he said, it's a little too delicate to transport, and I don't really use it anymore, so I want to go ahead and sell it. So he says, I want to sell it for $500. And my mom, who's a tough guy, she decided she's going to demand $800. And I said, hold on a second, let me do a little research. And I got online and I said, what brand is it? And he said, it's a Wurlitzer. I said, all right, that's good. And I got online, I started digging around, what did Wurlitzer sell for? And this is a few years back. And I dug around for a while. And there's different models and different makes. And the basic concept of an old jukebox is it's got a mechanical arm, and you can watch it. It would reach over and grab the record, and you'd pick it up, set it down, and then the mechanism would play the song. And when it was done, it would pick it up and put it back in the rack. Well, there was a short line of Wurlitzers made where the arm that reached over and grabbed the record actually would go backwards behind it and grab the record behind it. So now, instead of having 100 selections in a ring, you had 200 because it was grabbing the other side of the record. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. But they only made 375 of these. They were kind of a unicorn for jukeboxes. And I did some research, and these are valuable because that's the ones everybody wants. The more unusual, but the more rare obviously becomes more valuable. So I said, hey, Dave, well, what model do you have? And he says, I don't know. I just grabbed it at random at this guy selling. He had a whole warehouse full of old machines. And he said, just give me that one. So I went, all right. So I go out in the barn and I pull the cover off, and it's a unicorn. And I said, do you have any idea what you have? Oh, I'm down to 0. Oh, that's bad. I have to wait a minute here. I lost everybody. 129 miles to Memphis. 22.9. Oh, I got 3 people back. Anyway, I asked my stepdad, I said, well, what model of this jukebox do you have? And he says, I don't know. And I went out and looked, I pulled the cover off, and it's a unicorn. He has a Wurlitzer Centennial 200. And I said, do you have any idea what you're sitting on out here? And he's like, well, not really. I said, they only made 375 of those back in 1957, and you've got one in your bar. He's like, oh, okay. So, like I said, he wants to sell it for $500. My mother wants to sell it for $800. And I went on eBay. If you've ever messed with eBay, you can have an auction or you can have a buy it now, and there has to be a gap of at least 30%, I think, between the auction and the buy it now. So I listed it, start $4,000. Mind you, this thing had corrosion and it had all the parts there, but it needed to be restored. Starting bid, $4,000. Buy it now, $6,500. And if you ever mess with eBay, you know once you get in there, you look at what you've done. You look at you list it, and then you turn around and you go in and you look at how the listing looks, and then you wait for something to happen. So $4,000 starting bid, $6,500. Buy it now. For some reason, I did something for just a moment, and then I went to look at the ad and I couldn't find it. And I'm digging around and it's not there. I'm like, what happened? And then I look over at my sold department and there's a one number sitting there, and I clicked on it. That jukebox sold in 1 minute and 7 seconds for $6,500. And I went, hey, Dave, check this out. He's like, what? Look, it's gone, sold. And he went, oh, shut up. And there was the contact information, and he called the guy. He said, did you just buy my jukebox? He goes, yeah, you got anything else? Dave went, no, but I kind of wish I did. So that old jukebox out in the barn paid for their entire move to Texas. And I really appreciated that happened the way it did, because you have something you're sitting on. Do your research before you start selling things. You may not know what you have. You know what I mean? You may not know. So I just jumping back on the load here. I picked up. Whoa! I just picked up a little tiny box I threw in the back of the van here, and it's going to the outskirts of Milwaukee, to the northwest, to a town I cannot even pronounce, called Minnewaukee Falls, some word I can't pronounce. It's just the outskirts, and due to the huge delays getting loaded, I got out of there super late, like an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes late. So this is kind of dragging. So I'm probably going to get hit with rush hour traffic passing through Chicago, which blows. But at least I'm going. And here it is, late August. I'm in Indiana. I slept last night. I was in Ohio last night. It was 45 degrees this morning when I woke up. In August, which is wonderful for the job I'm doing. But wow, 45 degrees. I approve, but that was cold. Now it's 78 degrees. But I get to spend the night tonight in Wisconsin, which is cool. This is I-65 northbound. Middle of head towards. You can't tell how I went through Indianapolis. Yeah, I'm through Indianapolis. North of their head, almost due north towards Chicago. It's almost a straight shot up here. Ooh. So that's my excitement for right now. Ooh. Okay, I got one bad joke for you. All right, this midget goes into a bar. Get this guy over. He jumps up on a bar stool. He looks around and says, "Who's the roughest, toughest, meanest guy in here?" Bartender points to the end of the bar and he goes, "That guy right there is a retired boxer. He's pretty tough." The midget runs over there and just beats the snot out of this guy. Just beats him senseless. And he runs out. He says, "I'll be back tomorrow." And he runs out the door. Next day he comes in. Same thing. Jumps up on the bar stool, says, "Who's the roughest, toughest, meanest guy in here today?" The bartender goes, well, that guy down there is a Navy SEAL. The midget runs down there and beats the crap out of the guy. Says, I'll be back tomorrow. He comes back all week, beats up a Taekwondo instructor. Doesn't matter who he fights, he totally dominates the fight. So after the latest beatdown, some other guy walks up to the bartender and says, hey, I work at the zoo. I think we can fix this problem. So earlier the next day, that guy comes back with a 900-pound silverback gorilla, sticks him in the restroom, turns the lights off, comes out. Right on time, the midget shows up, jumps up on the bar stool, says, who's the roughest, toughest, meanest guy in here? Bartender says, well, I got a friend of mine. He's pretty big. He goes, oh, I like him big. And he's pretty mean. He goes, I like him mean. He says, all right, he agreed to fight you, but there's conditions. All right, he's on parole. He can't afford to get in trouble. So the only way he's going to fight you is in the restroom with the lights turned off. Says, is he in there? Yes, he is. The midget runs in the restroom and it's quiet for a couple seconds. And these two start scrapping. Glass is shattering. Concussion rings are coming out of the bathroom. Porcelain's exploding. The whole building's rocking back and forth on its foundations. Suddenly it gets quiet again. Then a few minutes go by and the midget comes out. His little arm is curled up. He's dragging his leg behind him and he walks to the door and he doesn't say nothing to anybody. He just walks. He opens the door to leave and he turns around and he says, when that big fella gets up, tell him I stuffed his fur coat in the toilet and pissed all over him. I know, too much free time. Senti right. Rover. Driving on autopilot. 78 degrees, 22.8 miles per gallon. No complaints. Yeah, I remember 8-track tapes. I remember in the early 80s when the local music store was 1981 or 82. Remember music stores? I remember when they stopped selling 8-track tapes. And I was like, what's that all about? Why would you stop selling those? That's when cassettes took over. And then cassettes went away. And CDs, compact discs took over. And then compact discs went away. Universal, what's up, mister? We're cruising north through Indianapolis, going towards a little town I cannot pronounce north or west of Milwaukee, with a little teeny tiny box of Harley Davidson hearts. I think they're logos, badges, or whatever. Took an hour and 20 minutes to pick up this box that weighs 10 pounds. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I just passed through Indianapolis, Indiana here a few minutes ago. Now I am blasting north on 65. My next turn's at 120 miles. The only slowdown I've hit was in Indy. They were doing all kinds of road construction. They got the highway broken into one lane for 65 and one lane for 70, which seems a little not well thought out. So this right here is I-65. I've had to call headquarters and ask them for clarification on the location for the delivery because the address numbers are a foreign language that a GPS doesn't speak. So they gave me some kind of drop down thing on a map I'm going to use, and I'm not going to open it until I get up close. I'll get pushy. good. Since this guy's in a big hurry, I will get over here and fall in line. There, now go fast. There you go. Have fun. Drop it, dump truck. Real fast. Him over. He's tired of following that guy too. Man, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm thinking about food. Let this roll for a few minutes.
You can call his ass down, break off to the left.
Somebody talking. I let this guy over for on the side of the road here. Yep. Mad at me, dude. I'm not the one up there holding up tracking. I'm not the one. At least I got some sexy new highways going in. Yeah, that guy should. Oh my God. This is 65 north between Indianapolis and Chicago. We are shooting towards Milwaukee right now. What's your plan there? No plan? No plan. Just drive. Some garbage on the side of the road, but at least they got a crew back there driving along picking stuff up. So that's what that does for us. Well, pick a lane, pick a lane. I'm still bothering dispatch for a Texas run. Rather get a run back to the house for a little time. Last time I was in Wisconsin, I went to a some little manufacturer. In the restroom, there was a sign on the wall that said, "This restroom is for Packers fans only. Bears fans can go use the woods." I thought that was awesome that someone would take the time to put that up. My dad had a house in Reno, a big house. He used to fly for Western Airlines. And when the airline got merged, got bought out by Delta, all the old signs and signage became, garbage more or less. And somehow my dad got his hand on a baggage sign that was in their little tiny downstairs restroom. When you sat down, you were facing the sign, and it said, Western Airlines, and it said, "Stop, sit, and prepare to unload." And that's what you were looking at. I thought that was fun. All right, this is a short one. This is 30 minutes. I'm going to bail because I got to pull over here in a minute and get something to eat. Catch you guys later.